Welcome back to another episode of Psycosmos. Today we have the YouTube legend, Peter Chao, with us. Acting professional, Netflix star, music artist, Peter Chao. Just as a brief introduction, Peter's been on YouTube for over almost 12 years now. He's one of the OG original guys that was up and coming on YouTube. He's had songs that he's created, different film and theater work. He was on Netflix in a number of shows, more of that to come later on. Woo Assassin specifically. He's also a stand-up comedian, as well as a wrestling aficionado. So tell me, Mr. Chao, how does one man do it all? What drives you? What drives you?
First of all, thank you so much for having me on the show. It's such a pleasure. In this day and age, to just be able to chat, with people that I admire as well, and seemingly admire me as well. So I'm really happy to be on the show, and thank you for having me. It's weird as you list off all of those things, they all kind of bleed into one. For me, it's just work ethic. It's really just putting as much work into it as possible, and we're not done. Because this is an ongoing thing. I was asked the other day on another podcast what my proudest moment was, and it was a struggle for me to even think of one because it's still ongoing. It's still very much a work in progress, and I think it always should be. With so many different avenues of getting out there with the TikTok and Netflix and traditional YouTube as an OG, I want to thank all of you guys, both of you guys, really, to not only have me on the show, but also talk about my accomplishments as
Absolutely.
Such a big thing. I really appreciate that.
That's why we reached out to you in the first place, because you as a YouTuber have honestly influenced even Matt and I's relationship over the years as far as comedy goes. Right. You've been in the picture from then. So.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think in our initial call we had brought up, we've been basically following you, I think, since probably when you started, 2009, 2010. Back then, we just were on YouTube a lot. We were watching a lot of people, and one of your videos had just popped up, and from there, our comedy kind of grew and it blossomed into this kind of beautiful mix. But you were definitely one of those staples where it was really influential on us. We were teenagers, so your style of comedy, it was. You really just didn't care what other people thought, and that's what we really appreciated. Yeah. Because we think that once you kind of draw that line of caring too much about what people think, sometimes people become unfunny, you know what I mean? And it's more about the politics of comedy rather than just making people laugh.
It's true. I mean, at that time when I started YouTube, to me, YouTube I don't think it had been around for a long time. Certainly there was no money. On it, the monetization program was not introduced yet, I don't believe. I remember the day that I celebrated not only getting 1,000 subscribers, which is just absolutely nothing nowadays, versus just the complete elation, that I felt. And then also when I got my first check from Google AdSense, I had called my mom because initially coming out of film school in 2008, I believe, my mom had, helped me with the $30,000 tuition that it cost to go to school, and asked me at the time, what are you going to do with your career now that you graduated from film school? And I was like, work at Blockbuster. What else? It's my dream job. And being the fact that my mom's Asian, of course, so strict disciplines, strict upbringing, and she was not pleased.
Really? I was actually going to ask that because Mama Chao and a lot of your other family members have been in some of your videos. So I wanted to know how that impacted kind of your motivation and your drive to continue going forward with the videos.
When I asked my mom initially, I was like, hey, I'm going to portray you as this street prostitute. In my YouTube videos, because at the time, that's what it was. The beauty of YouTube was I wanted my content to have a little edge to it.
Right.
I was very much inspired by Sacha Baron Cohen, Borat, Bruno, Ali G. That style of comedy really, really spoke to me, and he's an icon to me. I feel that his comedy is very brave and very courageous in the way that he really attacks and presents different aspects of social issues, very important social issues, but he does it through the lens of comedy, which I think that is what makes it, as important, as any comedy that I've ever seen. So I think that inspired me. So when I asked my mom, I was like, hey, do you want to be in my video portrayed this way? All she had to say was, are you going to make money from it? I was like, a little bit. She was like, I'm in. So yeah, it's interesting with my mom. She was still working at a bank as a teller at the time. So it's my content was just blowing up at the time, and they were having interns, coming in and working at the bank. And that means like having, an influx of young people coming in and applying for that job. And one time an intern asked my mom, who had happened to be watching my videos, are you a real prostitute?
I want to know how
that was what I was like, this is ridiculous. Right. How could you?
I mean, you've been a pioneer on YouTube for the last decade or so now. And you've always tested the limits of what content creators can produce. What would you say the difference is to the, Peter Chao then versus Peter Chao now?
I mean, Peter Chao now, almost doesn't exist, because Peter Chao now is more me and my humor and my dry humor. And it hasn't been the easiest thing to kind of get to people that, used to watch me, who are used to a certain level of content, used to the character, actually. And then when they see me speak like this, even, it's very jarring to them. It's very unsettling, because this is not the character that they grew up with. YouTube, both of you mentioned that, when you first started watching me on YouTube, you, like many others, would probably think that the Chinese accent was real, the character was real, and I wanted that too. I wanted that sort of level of mystique around the character. I wore sunglasses so people wouldn't be able to see my face. There was a mystery aspect to it. And that's what I kind of enjoyed, because I could still, at the time, I thought that I could have my own privacy, as the character, but people would still recognize me without it. People would see me in these style of glasses in public and still recognize that I was him, or that I was the character. So I started kind of having both sets of glasses on me. So I'd wear my glasses, my regular specs, and then when I was approached, I would swap.
There you go. There you go. Awesome. I love it. That's stylish. That is very stylish. It definitely sounds like over the years you've had an evolution of your content and your channel. Almost, I was actually going to bring that up. It seems as though you at some point broke apart from the whole Peter Chao rhetoric. And I think I watched a video where you had said that somewhere around the time you did the Gangnam Style video was where...
Yeah, that was 2012, I think, yeah.
That's when it kind of started to fall off for you. What was it that kind of changed in the sense of like your motivation to continue doing something different?
It was more my pursuit, my internal pursuit. It had nothing to do with money, or it had nothing to do with the change in platform. It had more to do with me just being exhausted playing the same character for 3 to 4 years at that point, and now we're talking 12. So
yeah.
So I felt that in a way I wanted to prove to myself that I could do something else. I had done everything that I wanted to do with the character. I mean, here's the thing is, if Peter Chao in a perfect world, in my dream world, the existence of the character would span probably over 12 to 24 episodes, and that's it.
Wow.
I did over 300, and I think I'm at like 400 videos now, and obviously some of them are me as me, but it's a lot of content to produce out there, to put out into the world where... honestly, I would say that I'm proud of 15% of it. It's not much.
Yeah, no, but you should be, absolutely. You
have
such a great on-screen presence. You have that confidence, and I feel like that's something that certain people don't have. What gives you that confidence?
I think that level of confidence came from when I was a child. I would say when I was growing up, I had the confidence to be almost kind of a class clown. With my classmates in theater, in makeshift theater, and growing up in school, I would always be really, really, excited for theater arts class. I would write my own scripts. I would, go out and act it. I would be the one to convince people to be in my movie or my play, so to speak, when I was growing up. And then I would also, surprisingly, I wanted to be a director. Before I wanted to be an actor, before I wanted to be in front of the lens, I wanted to be in control of a production. So I would create these little short films about nothing just to give me an excuse to film something. I was into Kung Fu at the time. I loved Jackie Chan. I grew up with him. So I would create movies or short films that would support that. So it would literally just be me sitting there wanting to do a fight scene. And I'm like, well, how can I make this fight scene work? And I would come up with this like makeshift plot about how, you know, neighbors stole each other's paper and then they got into a fight because, anyway, it was just, you know, the narrative wasn't important. It was just the fight. And then for no reasons, they would have lightsabers. And it's just an excuse for me to do that. And I think the confidence, the part of that came from just doing it so much that I wanted to tackle different things. You know, I wanted to do the acting thing after I got the opportunity to direct in a way. And then now it's almost kind of the other way around. If I ever get the opportunity to direct again, I think I'm going to do a much better job because I understand what it takes now to be an actor. I'm not saying that I've reached the cusp of where I want to reach as an actor, but certainly I understand working on so many sets as an actor and observing what's happening around me.
Right.
I now have a little bit more confidence in that arena now to work with people in that regard.
Of course, absolutely. And that experience over time, like you said, it's you learn what you like to do by doing, and you also learn what you don't like to do by doing. And it sounds like being on the set, which is something that we wanted to jump in here soon with, maybe talk a little bit about Woo Assassins. It sounds like being on the set has allowed you to empathize, with the acting position from a much deeper perspective. And then that way it gives you more information to direct better. And that's kind of a big thing that we do here at Psycosmos. We like to connect a lot of dots too.
That makes sense. I mean, with Peter Chao, it's very much a one-man show. I mean, at the time, I didn't want to, but I had to do everything. You know, I acted, I edited, and, you know, going back to your great question from before in terms of the confidence and the ability to do it, it's the ability to not get sick of watching yourself. You know what I mean? So it's like when I was doing Peter Chao, I would, you know, get up, write the script, act it out. And in some cases, I would actually take the script, and if I had time, if it was material that I wasn't sure whether it was going to be funny or not, I would actually take that material to the stage. I would go and do stand-up with that material that I would prepare for a video. And if it got the laughter that I thought that it would get, then I was confident enough to then make a video of it, or a video interpretation of that material. So when you say that not a lot of people have that amount of confidence, it's not necessarily something that I wholeheartedly agree with. I think it's just a different level of confidence. For me, I think it was just having the ability to test material in a live setting and to go, you know, do real people find this funny?
Yeah.
I'm not saying that people who watch the YouTube content aren't real necessarily. It's almost just kind of a case where it's like, I need live feedback.
Right. I was just going to say, you can't see somebody's face. You can't listen to the way they say anything if it's all online. Now, if you're in person, it's a lot easier to be able to digest the feedback. So it sounds to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds to me like fear of rejection was just not something that went through the mind of Peter Chao.
The fear of rejection comes from when you do it live. You know, but I had no fear of rejection in terms of creating content online, putting it out there, because it's muted. You know, the feedback is muted in a way because it comes at you through like a portal, like into the comments. They don't have to. You want to talk about confidence? They don't care about what they say and that's a big problem. There's no accountability. People can literally create fake accounts and do a lot of damage. And that attributes to something that I'm not going to say didn't exist back when I was making YouTube videos, but mental health is a big thing, especially with a lot of creators, trying to hurt themselves or successfully have killed themselves, in ways based on what people say on their Twitch streams or live streams. And it's quite damaging, that sort of impact on one's mental health, and people need breaks. And that's another thing about content creation on YouTube, is that you have to, it's hard to say, okay, I need to take a few days off, because there's no such thing really as a content creator. You're your own boss, sure, but the audience is as much of a boss as you are your own boss. Mm-hmm. So they're telling you and they're dictating your schedule. They're going to spread as to, oh, where's our video today? I think that's the aspect that's the most dangerous, with viewership and with YouTube, because if you don't continue to churn out content, the platform loses interest in you. Your viewers lose interest in you. And you have to maintain a certain level of relevance.
And I feel, to your point, I feel a lot of people these days, they will try to rush a following. They will try to rush this, this massive upcome. And when it happens like that, the audience isn't organic. It's not this. It's not this organically built fan base. Right. So you won't get the same feedbacks that you might as some other channels.
And like you said, Peter, people can be pretty demanding. Online, even if you're doing everything that you can. There's definitely been a cultural shift that social media platforms like YouTube and others have created, where it's definitely far more self-gratifying. I need it now, right now, I can't wait, there's very little patience, and that can really bleed into somebody's own personal habits in a really negative way if they're that impatient. So I think you make an excellent point in saying, it can be all over the place,
Yeah, I think the personal psyche is very important, and it's important to take care of yourself.
Absolutely.
Even now with TikTok, I'm doing a lot of TikTok material. I'm trying to churn out. I feel the energy that I feel in creating TikTok is very similar to the energy that I felt when I was first creating YouTube videos. There's no money in it. You just really want to kind of get out there and do something that makes you laugh. And that's what eventually YouTube was missing for me. I wasn't creating videos because I wanted to anymore. I was creating videos because I felt like I had to. And overall, I would have to say the YouTube experience was incredibly positive, but it definitely had some downsides. And the ambition level just changes as you grow older. And I was a young kid, 2009. I'm 33 now. I was in my early 20s when I was creating that content. I was a different person. So when people now say, hey, I would love to see you full-time, go back to the character, it's not something that I necessarily really want to do, because I'm just a different person. I find different things funny. And
for sure.
There are aspects of my comedy that, ended up hurting people and hurting communities and whatnot, and things have changed. Although I don't feel like I should be reprimanded necessarily for the content that I did then, because I was a different person then and the humor was different. So I don't necessarily agree with cancel culture in that regard as well. People trying to dig up old content, it's different. That era was different. Why are we trying to cancel people that are either dead or did certain things in the 70s? So, and especially because I'm a comic. I'm a comic.
Yeah.
It's going to be at the expense of someone.
Right.
But I'm hopeful that when people do want to watch my old videos, that they're always going to be there. I'm also not the type to completely erase my catalog. I know certain people who will do that.
Right.
And I don't think that that's, a good way to kind of show how you've grown is to have older content, and then as it transitions, it's new content. So if you're following someone's trajectory or someone's journey, you get to see what they were like when they were in their early 20s. And that's why, the likes of people who have family vlogs, for instance, people with family vlogs, it's great because at an early stage, you see their family at a certain stage, and then you see them now. So that evolution, I think, is very...
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. And to touch on a note of yours, you said... you brought up cancel culture. Definitely, that's definitely been an issue for a lot of YouTubers, a lot of celebrities, a lot of people. As a comic, there are a lot of different hurdles to jump, but it seems like to your credit, you've really done an excellent job in basically not standing down and deleting those older videos, which some people might say are offensive. I don't find them offensive, and I think that people who are incredibly focused on not trying to find things funny or take it in a positive way, those people are also the ones who end up trying to lash out online sometimes, very maybe negative minded. But there's a lot of different psychological aspects that fall into that too, and personal beliefs and whatnot. But overall, I mean, there's a fine line between comedy and free speech right now, and that line is shrinking. I don't know if you would agree or disagree with that, but I feel like that line is shrinking.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, with my content back in the day, I would have to say that there was no malicious intent.
No.
It was done all in tongue-in-cheek, sort of style. So, to have it, and who knows, some of it may not have been funny. Looking back on some of my videos, I cringe.
I disagree. I thought it was hilarious.
Some of it is, and some of it isn't. And there were videos that I even at the time in 2013, so to speak, that I decided to take off because I felt that it was, incredibly inappropriate, even at that time. But in recent years, people have re-uploaded, without my knowledge, older videos of mine when they were live. So I've had to kind of lean on YouTube in a way to kind of get those videos removed, because I already kind of I did my due diligence at that time to already remove them. To go back and dig back onto something that I've already acknowledged was a mistake is then going above and beyond to impact my life now in a negative way.
But I think that says more about you as a person if you're willing to, if you honestly feel like you made a mistake at some point and then you try to correct it. That's you shouldn't get any flack for that.
That speaks to your character,
Exactly.
quite honestly. Yeah.
Yeah, it shows that you don't want to offend anybody. You don't want to be malicious. It's purely comedy, and I think that now, I don't know if it's just that, and I mean maybe I'm out of my limit of saying this, but I don't know if it's just people are bored or if people just really
we're all inside, right? So
right, yeah. Either people are just really bored or they have malicious intent when they try to take down people for past work. So I could not agree with you more on that, as far as that perspective.
I think the industry and society is very cyclic, and it's all going to come back around, so so it's very cyclic. And then even with comedy, South Park, for instance, 1999 it came out, just the raunchiest, most dirty, most inappropriate humor, right? Yep. And then it's still here. South Park is still around. They're still churning out episodes, and it did go through a bit of a cycle, in terms of what was accepted and what wasn't accepted.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think just the world is always going to be like this.
Mm-hmm. It is, and people, I think, when they get involved in these different types of projects and things of that nature, they can then, it evolves, kind of, you said, with the cycle. They can evolve into a different style or whatever it might be.
Mm-hmm. But that's no matter what happens as that comic or person evolves over time, the character still relatively remains good. You don't go into comedy and become a more hateful person. I would say most people probably become a more happy person because they start seeing things from a comedic lens. But maybe you have some stories. Maybe you know somebody.
Most comics, I have to say, I mean, even as actors, comics, we have a dark side. Because I think that if you're out there and you're doing comedy, a lot of people are using that as an outlet, as a direct reflection as to what's happening inside. And that's not necessarily. I didn't have anything growing up that was super traumatic. I had a very functional family. It wasn't necessarily dysfunctional, in terms of me being the only, for example, me being the only Asian kid growing up in a school full of white people. No, that was a little challenging, and that was, very difficult to navigate at times in terms of people who would pick on me, sure. But not necessarily to the point of so much trauma that it led me to, I gotta, take the stage to, exhibit my hate for white people. I don't hate anyone.
Sorry, what would you say like some of the big events in your life are that kind of shaped you? Something that had really impactful.
It's an interesting thing because yeah, again, nothing really traumatic or negative. Like I would say, like when I was a kid, the way that I was bullied was different from other kids that were bullied. Like
Right.
kids would be bullied for, typical things. Maybe they looked a certain way, or what have you. I was made fun of strictly for being of another culture. So
It's horrible.
I'm not sure if that shaped me, but it certainly made me stronger. Yeah, I mean, I remember this kid saying to me, and I find it funny now, but I remember the kid saying to me, to other kids, to another group of kids, "Ew, Peter's Chinese." And I was like, well, great. And then I had to kind of, go home and speak to my parents about it and kind of get some clarity. And then it actually made me more in tune with my culture. So if you want to take something that, results into more of a positive thing, it's me learning more about me and my culture and the importance of it and the importance to, watch Chinese content. For me, growing up with Chinese content, I grew up with English-speaking content as much as I did Chinese movies.
Right.
And not a lot of kids, especially I had Chinese kids, a few that, our neighborhood would kind of get together because we were essentially the only Chinese people in town. We would all, hang out with each other. And now those specific Chinese kids aren't very good at speaking their native dialect. I was forced in a way by my parents. I was like, my dad told me as soon as I got into the house, I had to speak Cantonese. I wasn't allowed to speak Cantonese with my brother. I broke that rule quite often, actually. But that shaped me, I guess, in a way. It took me a little bit to get to an answer to your question, but that is what shaped me. I think just being a little bit more in tune with my culture. And then being in tune with my culture sort of allowed me to approach comedy in a different way. It made it okay for me to make fun of my own culture because I'm allowed to.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and I think that makes sense. Yeah.
And I think it's great too that you have that experience from both cultures, because I feel like people in this world today should have that experience and they should go out and experience what it's like to, live in another country, be in a different household, go over to your friend's house who is from somewhere else, things like that. I think it's just being lost.
Yeah.
Just being lost today.
Honestly, it's so important to be cultured. It doesn't matter what ethnicity you are. It will shine a new light, as to the way that you see life, or the way that you see everything around you. I didn't feel Chinese until 2006 when I went to Hong Kong and visited my grandma for the first time since I was a baby. I don't remember her as a baby, but I do remember her now, and I have the opportunity of going back starting, I believe, in 2007 was my first time going back, and I had gone back almost every year since then just to be in tune with my second home. Hong Kong was where my dad grew up, where my mom grew up, both my parents. I mean, they came from there. And even when they went back, things were different, So it's super important for me, especially, to see that part of the world, and I want to travel to more places. Right now is not the perfect time for that, but I want to get back to it.
Well, actually, that's a great segue. I wanted to ask you a little bit more about your travels, and since you had brought up Hong Kong, that's a really great platform to go off, because we have somebody who's actually been to China. So
Is that right?
Yeah. So you guys
There you
can
go.
talk a little bit about that. He also took care of panda bears. So one question I had for you was, do you like pandas, Peter Chao?
I love pandas. One of the most exotic animals. I mean, how can you not like, a species that sits there and eats bamboo all
Right.
day? Is that true? Is that a stereotype?
Thank you.
Animals mind their own business, and that's the number one key thing. I did my best. I'm not vegan necessarily anymore, but I was for a certain time, for a few
I was
years.
too, for a little bit.
And I don't eat meat outright as much. I feel like reduction is definitely a number one thing that I want to focus.
You definitely hit a point where you got into some serious shape. Where you changed significantly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For 2 years, I think I was vegan, and I felt, I'm not gonna say that I felt really good. I felt like naturally the same. But when you pair a healthy diet with healthy exercise, I mean, I think I went the opposite way since the beginning of the pandemic. But hey, no judgment here.
You can't blame me for that. It's cool. Yeah, we get it. But
I still feel that eating is important, and I know it's a cliche to say you are what you eat, so to speak, but that's exactly what it is for me. You want to eat. I eat tofu literally every day. I love tofu.
Nice.
I'm trying the new alternative meats. Anytime that there's an opportunity that I see, like the Beyond Meats, I don't focus on the negative as if, okay, great. Let's just say, for example, Pizza Hut just introduced Beyond Meat. Okay, then a ton of people in the comments will say, well, then is it cooked on the same pan as the regular pizzas? Don't focus on that. Focus on the fact that Pizza Hut has a plant-based alternative.
Yeah.
We need to focus on the positive. If we are just attack, we are never going to be happy with anything. I remember when A&W introduced Beyond Burger, I was elated. I was excited. I was like, there's an option for us now. And then comments about, what about the cheese? Or is it going to automatically, do I have to ask for the people to make it without cheese? Then ask for without cheese.
Yeah.
It just boggles my mind that people choose to focus and make it harder, for people to convert in that way. If they want to pursue veganism as a lifestyle, it makes it a lot tougher because the community is very, very toxic.
And when those people are in that attack mode, that, like you say, attack, they're constantly looking for something externally that's going to fix their situation, when the reality of it is they need to start asking the right questions internally about these things to get what they want.
And like you said, not just ask the right questions, but also, to your point, put whatever you're putting in your body, specifically food, or even alcohol. If you're drinking too much, that can definitely harm you in a specific type of way throughout your career and throughout your life. So that's a big focus for us here, is eating properly.
A balanced diet is super important.
Yes, absolutely.
Nutrition is important no matter how you look at it. It's got to be balanced. People who are protein heavy or people who are, protein light. It's whatever it is that you make of it.
Right.
So.
Right. And another big thing for us, maybe you agree or disagree, is the prominence of sugar, especially in the West. The West has so much sugar, and whether you're talking America or Canada, sugar is in everything. Everything is processed with it. Every drink that you go and you get, all the coffee, it's got all these different, 50 different types of sugars you can't even name. And
stuff that you don't even think sugar's in.
Yeah, too much sugar. And it's really not good for your mental. A lot of people eat too much sugar.
Yeah, but that's what brands do. Brands know that it has that effect.
Yep. It's like a drug
on you, and they make you. There are certain chemicals, and sugar being one of them, that really draws you back.
Yeah.
It's like you cannot stop it. It not only does it satisfy your craving, but even now talking about it, I want some chocolate. So
yeah, I was gonna say that's because they got us young. They got us when we were kids. All the Happy Meals and everything else, all that sugar pumped into it. They got us young.
All that candy. I mean, my dad doesn't have any teeth left. I mean, the one thing, going back to YouTube for 1 second, that I do enjoy are these specific challenges. The no meat challenge for 30 days, the no sugar challenge. And it's interesting to see these people who would regularly be, like a well-balanced diet, go to such extremes on either way. It's interesting, the challenges that you don't even think that there would be there. Even salty food has sugar in it, or a good amount of it to offset what have you, the taste. But just to go and see, okay, I need to go grocery shopping today, and you see this couple, they go out and they look at the back of the boxes to see what the sugar contents are, and if it's even 1 gram or 2 grams, you can't eat it. It's very interesting to see regular people, go through those challenges, and to see how they navigate it, and to see not only how they're mentally affected, but physically how tired it makes them.
Right.
or the difference in energy is it's very spellbinding for me to watch.
Yeah.
And that's the type of content that's great, because if you watch day 1, you'll watch day 2, 3, see how it's going. And that's very smart in terms of video marketing, you know, as well as just going through the, you know, each day to see what happens.
Yeah.
It's very, very interesting.
Yeah, it's like Super Size Me, the movie. It's like that was like
There you go.
That was like the inspiration, and now everybody's doing the same thing.
Although that made me want to eat McDonald's.
Yeah, see, that's what I'm saying. That's what I think that was marketing by McDonald's, if I'm being honest with you. That just made me more hungry for it. It is crazy, especially when you compare, like he said, when you compare our diets over here to other parts of the world, and how integrated they've made things like coffee. You know, I love coffee. I have a cup sitting right over here. So does he. But
I drink 6 cups a day. I'm not ashamed of it.
Do you really? Do you drink 6 cups a day?
Well, I think I drink 3 of the regular sized. Well, so like I call 1 cup like half of this.
Yeah.
Like, or 3/4. Drink 3 of those, and then I'll make for fun like either a cappuccino. See, I can't do that now. I can't go out to, you know, I don't want to. I don't like Starbucks. I
don't
like
blame you.
local
I don't
coffee
blame you.
shops.
Expensive.
And,
It is.
and I like to support local. That's another aspect. I know I'm going all over the place. I like to support local. So I like to go to local shops. Even my beans come from local shops. I'd like to go even further than that, but, you know, just out of pure convenience, I do what I can, right? But yeah, I drink 3 of those, and then 6 was a bit of an exaggeration. Then I make a latte. So I'll have my own stuff at home, and I just try to like make lattes. I'm not having like that much success right now because I just got one of those. I don't know if you guys have that, but it's like a $40 or $50 gadget. It's called like a Bellman stovetop.
My sister has one of those. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So I was like, I'm getting all these little mini gadgets, and I'm just trying to work things out. I got one of those $30. I think it was like, I don't know, it's called like a mocha pot. You guys are coffee connoisseurs, but like
French press, percolator. Yeah.
all
How do you
all
like
that
it?
stuff, and just I'm
So,
just trying to explore.
we need the caffeine buzz in the industry we're in. We need it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
The worst part, you know, I gotta tell you guys, caffeine does nothing for me.
Yeah.
Wow.
It doesn't wake me up. It doesn't do anything. I just like the taste. When people are like, man, it gives me a jolt. It gives me that energy to start the day. I don't feel any different.
That's how I am in the
love the
morning.
taste.
Yeah.
I need
I
it.
actually really like the taste too. I'll drink it straight black. I enjoy it black. Yeah.
You're a psycho.
Me too.
Yeah, he says I'm a psycho, but I love it black. It tastes good.
Yeah.
There were theories when I was in school. People were like, "Oh, I don't understand why anybody would put milk or cream in their coffee. I mean, all it does is cool it down." And I was like, "Yes." And I didn't start drinking black coffee until I started drinking local, because I don't know if you guys have ever tasted Starbucks black coffee. That is not, you cannot do that. It tastes like motor oil.
I've been to too many business conferences, Peter. I have been to so many business conferences where they have given me crap coffee. Trust me, I know. It tastes like garbage. It really does.
Tastes like garbage. I mean, like, here's the thing. If you're going to drink coffee black, it better be good,
Right.
good coffee.
Absolutely.
Don't, you know, if it's lower quality, it is not going to be good.
I actually have sitting in a bag beans from wherever Mount Kilimanjaro is. I got coffee beans from there sitting in my cupboard. So Starbucks has not given us a ad placement or anything. I'm just saying I don't drink Starbucks personally.
Well, next time you go back to any sort of exotic country, please bring back coffee.
There you go.
Bring back coffee and send me a bag while you're there.
Give us an address and you got it. We'll send it to you.
Got you covered on my
Here's the
next
thing, though.
travel.
I
My
have
next
like
adventure.
friends that go back to Vietnam, and I'm like, when you're there, give me some beans. Like anytime, like I got a friend right now in Mexico, give me some beans. I don't know how the restrictions work. I don't even know how he was able to go down there, but you know, when he gets back, give me some beans.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's good. It really is good. We have one more segue that we kind of wanted to do before we wrap up here with you. We really wanted to know more about your experiences working on Netflix for Wu Assassins, and we also wanted to know what kind of future stuff you had in the pipeline for Peter Chao.
Well, here's the thing with Netflix or NBC or Nickelodeon or Disney. These shows give me an outlet to be someone that I'm not, and it's very, very fun for me to explore these different opportunities, because you're not. I'm a working actor in the sense that I'm not, you know, for example, and by the way, I would love this if the opportunity came through, is, you know, people who are strapped to series regular roles, like either on like an SVU, 22 years, 22 seasons, what have you, those types of shows where you playing the same character for 22 years. I'm getting to kind of play, you know, oh, one day on this, a couple of days here, 3 days, I'm, you know, young Tommy from Woo Assassins. And it's interesting, you know, it's almost kind of like, you know, getting to break away from having to play Peter Chao every day. You get to kind of do bits and bobs of everything. And it's not only just when you get the opportunity or you get offers to be on those shows, but it's the process of auditioning and self-taping now at home that really is very rewarding, because you're putting yourself out there, and great if you get the offer, but another great thing that is you get to practice. You get to work on it. As much as it is great to share with everyone and tell everyone that, you know, you were offered a role on Woo Assassins or a Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist or what have you, a lot of regular people who aren't in the industry don't see the process that goes into putting the work into, you know, putting up a blue sort of sheet and just filming yourself with an iPhone. And that's what's going to put yourself out there to see whether casting directors are interested in working with you. And it's
now when you
struggle.
went on to these roles, did your YouTube skills translate well into moving into those bigger roles?
With YouTube, it does give you that level of confidence,
Right.
but
Right.
it was almost starting from scratch, because the industry doesn't care about your YouTube experience, you know, especially at that time, especially when I was starting. YouTube was there, but it certainly isn't as mainstream as it is now. I would say it's more important now to have social media followings across different platforms than it was when I first started dabbling into acting. I think that it gives you internal confidence for when you go to auditions, but they're not going to see you any different. My agent reached out to me because of Gangnam Style. Like after Gangnam Style was when I was reached out to, because, you know, realistically, I can't imagine her thinking that, hey, this character would be great in so many TV shows and so many commercials, but he has something. And I think that's what my agent saw in me, was that I had, you know, what we mentioned early on, that sort of pomp, that sort of confidence that I have when I do these things in public. So that led me to, you know, being offered a commercial spot with Campbell's within, I would say, 30 days of being a full-time actor, so to speak. And I've done a ton of commercials, you know, since then, mostly just for set experience, and let's admit it, the money was pretty good as well. But TV and film is sort of where I want to be and that I want to live, because it's an understanding of different characters, and it's a whole different process. You know, I just wrapped a day on a Disney show. It's cool to see how different that is from Woo Assassins. Woo Assassins is, you know, it's dark, it's moody, it's has a, you know, martial arts flair to it. It almost kind of reminds myself, you know, when I was growing up watching some of the stuff on you know, on TV, on Chinese TV. And then you have Disney, where it's not something that is catered to my specific target demographic. So it's interesting, because you kind of have to, I've done a Nickelodeon show as well, or a Nickelodeon movie, and I would never watch the movie, but, you know, it's something to be a part of. It's cool. It's cool to be a part of that, and it's cool that little kids remember me from it, or be like, hey, I remember watching you on this, and what have you. So it, you know, back to YouTube as well, when people recognize me now, it's like, wow, you know, when I first started watching, you know, Peter Chao on YouTube, I was a kid, and now I have kids. Yeah. So it's like, it's so cool to see that evolution.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I think you definitely have gone in a direction that really, really suits not only your work ethic, but also your comedy style, because you as an individual, as we've kind of watched you evolve over the years, you have gotten more refined. Everything has just gotten better and better and better over time. And as we had brought up before, it's all about learning what you want to do and what you don't want to do. And the fact that you're stepping into this realm and you're doing so well with it. I mean, we watched Wu Assassins. Definitely got to check out that Nickelodeon movie. I don't know what it is, but I'll watch it. I don't care if it's a kid's movie.
You really don't. Honestly, that was my first movie role. I was still very protective in a way at that time of the Chao character. So when I went in for my audition, I did different variances of the Chinese accent, one that was super heavy and one that was medium and one that was lighter, and they decided to go with somewhere in the medium zone, which is where what you'll hear. I play a scientist in one scene in that movie. I have a cool scene because it's with the two leads, so the pressure was there as a first-time actor. But yeah, it's not like it's my proudest acting moment or what have you, but it is. It was, again, and it goes back to having that catalog,
right.
Being able to see what I did in 2014, which is, I think, when I seriously started to pursue acting. And now for the last 6 years, you do not get even remotely good at something until you've been doing it for 10 years. And this has nothing to do with what you've been offered and what is out there. We're talking only auditions, self-tapes, going in. That pursuit, that chase, that is what it's all about. Being offered, great. Okay, great. I get to post on Instagram that I've been offered this role on Disney or this thing on Wu Assassins.
Yeah.
What they don't see, what I'm doing every day.
And it's happened because you've had the ability to adapt. You've adapted throughout your career, and now you are moving on to these bigger roles, and we get to see it unfold in a really great way.
Yeah, and I, thank you for that. And it's not when I said at the beginning, it's just very much the beginning. There are snippets in which I take from Gary Vee, for instance. A lot of
Gary Vee.
A lot of his content is very positive. Some of it doesn't, like everyone, doesn't apply to me. And little nuggets do. And when you find those little nuggets that apply to you, you're like, wow, that rings true. And one of the main components of what he speaks to is patience. I'm just getting started because I have the patience to stay in it. The pandemic has affected so many people in different ways. And I think that a lot of actors, even in my community, have given up because they don't want to tape at home. They miss the adrenaline rush that is associated with going into audition rooms, to seeing the casting director, to showing themselves in that light. And they don't see that being possible doing tapes and submitting them. But you just have to roll with how the industry is going. And my hope is auditions will come back because I do miss it. I do miss that rush. I do miss that energy, that palpable energy when you're going into the room and you're about to be judged by 6-7 people. You don't get that when you tape and you submit it into the ether. You don't know what's going to happen with that. But when you go into a room, that audition starts the moment you enter the room. Not when they say action. It's the small talk. It's the how are you? How's it going? You staying busy? All that type of stuff. That's part of them deciding whether they're going to hire you or not.
Yeah. Well, it definitely seems like you have fought against the grain. You were Atlas holding the world on your shoulders, and now you are stepping into, like you said, you have all the time in the world. That's actually a big motif of ours. We actually have been saying that for a while. We knew that when we started our own project that it was going to take a very long time to get to the point of where we wanted to become.
And even where we're at right now.
Exactly. We actually didn't think that we would get as far as to talk with the great OG legend, Peter Chao. And we've only started this about less than 2 years ago, really. So, I mean, for us, we love everything that you're about, and we love every pearl of wisdom that you've dropped on us today.
Absolutely.
All about the motivation and the willpower, and really just being happy, doing what you love, and figuring out what you want to do, and then relentlessly pursuing it without, of course, harming anybody else. That's your character, man, and that's exactly what we saw through the lens watching you throughout the years. We could not be more ecstatic that you gave us so much time today. So
I mean, thank you so much again for having me. I'm always humbled at the opportunity to speak to myself, because I don't like necessarily talking about myself. I have a podcast to do the opposite. My podcast is to learn from people, just much like you guys. And I admire everything that you said about me. But here's the thing with me is that acting, that is not everybody wants to be an actor, but it is something that requires a lot of hard work. And no matter what you want to do in your life, whether it's to be professional podcast people, actors, and whether you want to be a TikTok star, whether you just want to be a great accountant, what have you, put the work in. That's the idea. You have to work every single day of your life.
There you go.
But take a break. Work every day, but take a break. Drink some coffee.
I like to say, work hard, play hard. That's the way I
There you
like to
go.
do it. That's the way I like to do it. And the working is definitely a majority of it. But when you do play, you got to enjoy your time. Just like we have enjoyed our time with you, Peter Chao. So thank you so much once again. We are wrapping up here. I did want to ask one last question for all the viewers at home. Do you have any message? Do you have anything you want to say to the people watching?
What do you got going on right now? What's next? Anything like that you'd like to share? You're more than welcome.
Yeah, right now, you can follow me on all the platforms that I have. As the great gentleman on this podcast, said, you can check out my old YouTube videos. You can go on my Instagram page. I do a lot of skits there. TikTok as well. I'm a big TikTok guy now. As not ashamed anymore. I used to be, but TikTok's a huge platform for me to kind of shape the way that I want to present myself nowadays, just my own comedy, and check that out. I also have a podcast.
That's where I watch a lot of your content. It's excellent.
Thank you very much. Same as you guys, I have a podcast on my own called The Peter Chao Show. You can find that on Spotify and Apple. But yeah, I talk to mainly actors and people that are in the industry because I want to learn from them. And I think talking to them is a great outlet for me to learn. And and that's that.
Okay.
Great.
All right. Well, thank you once again for watching, and we appreciate all of your time, Mr. Peter Chao. I guess we'll just end it here. So
Thank you again.
Yep. Thanks, and take care.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course.